Let's talk about period power. Not everybody's favorite subject. And if you don't cycle for any particular reason, like you have a coil or you take a certain type of pill, or if you no longer have a womb, or if you have been through the menopause and have now stopped your periods, then do bear with me, because women, in our very nature, we are cyclic. So whether you bleed or not doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot tap into your cycles. It does mean that it can make it slightly harder to sense the ebbs and flows, because a period is literally a period. It is a full stop, and we know where we are with that. However, if we can tap into our cycles without the period as well, it can be super, super powerful. So like I said, women, we are cyclic in nature. We have roughly a 28-day cycle. That can be less, it can be more. And when we are going through menopause, it can be up and down and upside down and inside out. So it isn't necessarily the time frame that will be the same, but the ebbs and flow will very much be the same through each month, aside from when we are going through menopause and things can be a little bit up and down. We are very lucky to cycle in such a nature. Our bodies are intuitive to the earth. If you think about how the moon cycles, and there is an argument to be had that once upon a time, when we were more connected to the earth, many thousands of years ago, that our cycles would have been more connected to the moon, and women would have bled together and we would have ebbed and flowed together. But we will not get into that philosophical debate and whether that is true or not at the moment. So the power of your period and the power of your cycle is something that we can really tap into. If you can track your mood through the month, and I say month in a very loose sense of the word, obviously it's not going to be, a perfect month. It can connect you to yourself. So there will be times in your cycle that you are super creative, and that your energy is best placed in those creative endeavors, such as writing, doing art, connecting with people in a creative manner. But there will be parts of your cycle that you are more designed to be alone and to rest and to be very self-reflective. And this is a superb time to really go inwards and do meditation and lots of yoga and really check out what's going on with you. And then there will also be parts of your cycle that are going and you want to run and jump and dance and all sorts and be connected with other human beings, and you will be amazingly attractive to others, and not in a sexual way necessarily, although that does come as well, but just attractive in a way that you will really be able to communicate with people and they'll understand you. So you can see how, if you tapped into each one of those stages, you could plan what you were doing to reflect your energy. Now, we often work in a very linear fashion, particularly in this masculine driven world where we just have to work at one level. But that just goes against everything that we know about the earth and ourselves. We have, the seasons change, the earth changes, everything renews and regenerates, the moon changes, and as do we. So if we can work with those different levels, then we can be more creative, and we can be more connected, and we can be more self-reflective. We're not going to be working against the grain. So we're not going to be sat trying to do really creative part of our job when actually we want to be out there being with people. It's is easier said than done, and depending on your job, sometimes you might have to do things that don't reflect where you are currently. But if you can, and you can at least have it in mind that, why is this so difficult right now? Why am I struggling to concentrate? If you can put an explanation behind it, you can at least give yourself a little bit of self-compassion. And then also, a cycle is like a regeneration. So we literally shed. If you are still bleeding, you shed to then regenerate yourself. And if you don't bleed, you can see it as a dip in your energy and sort of a resting period. It's a chance to shed any bad energy, any destructive thoughts and behaviors. It's a time to let go. And much like we do with the moon phases, on a full moon, it's wonderful to just sit back and be grateful, but also to let go of what hasn't served us. The intentions that we set at the new moon, perhaps we're going to let some of those go at the full moon because we've realized that's not going to pan out. So that's a great tool to have as a woman. The fact that we can begin again each month is fabulous. We can let go of the old and embrace the new. And your cycle gives you feedback on yourself. The harder you're finding your cycles and the more your body's fighting you, perhaps it is giving you feedback that overall we're not physically well, we're not looking after ourselves, or maybe psychologically we're not looking after ourselves. So listening to the body, which is something I always bring up in yoga, is so important. And as a woman, you have this literal signposting body that will tell you when stuff isn't right. So that is just so useful if we can listen to it. And embracing our cycle can allow us to release a sense of too much control. So it doesn't really matter what we do, even if we take birth control, even if we're on the coil, even if we have had surgery to remove the womb, we are still cyclic, and that will never leave us. So we can let go of that. We can let go of the fact that we have control over this element of ourselves. We will ebb and flow, whether it's with our cycle, whether it's with the moon and the seasons. This is something that is natural, and if we tap into it, like I've said, it's just super healing and super useful. And it gives you that sense that you are connected to something just so much bigger than yourself, or at least it does for me. It might not reflect that way with you, that might not resonate with you. And then menstruation in itself. So if you are having a bleed, it can be a really important time, maybe even just for an hour or two in those bleeding days, where you can really go inwards. You can shut yourself away. And I know this is difficult when you've got work and families, trust me, I know. But even if you can just take an hour to be alone, be quiet, be in the dark. I know this sounds, very ominous, but if you can shut yourself away and almost cocoon yourself up in a place of just being warm and quiet, you can really listen to yourself. It's going to sound very woo-woo, but you can talk to yourself. And when you're bleeding, it is a perfect time to do it. She will tell you the truth. The womb doesn't lie. She will tell you some big truths. So have a little chat with her. Chat with that womb space when you're on your bleed. What is it that needs healing? What do we need to let go of? And just dig deep, really dig deep. And if there was ever an excuse to do it and just to say, I need to be alone for an hour when you're going through your period, I think you've got the green light there. So there's just a few things that we can really embrace about our cycles and our periods.